All right, game number 7. Had to do a quick count for a second there, given that we are catching up for the day 2 of the FNCS Grand Finals.
Yeah, and the other crazy thing to consider is that there was certainly a lot of chatter happening all throughout the course of last night. I think a lot of teams kind of trying to determine, are we switching our drops? Are we gonna look to try and surprise contest? And for one of our duos, our leading duo even from day 1, Clix and Veno, they find themselves dealing with a little bit of company here at the Sandy Steps.
Yeah, this is a huge surprise and honestly could be, you know, a difference maker for them. Clix and Veno obviously are the team to look out for, and Peterbot and Boyo. It's just going to be such an explosive day, but kind of picking up the pieces from where we left off yesterday, Oliver OG and Craze definitely were the stronger duo here at this drop spot as they were contested every single game. This is, if anything, the first time we're seeing them have a little bit of space to work with, and that's one thing you have to really appreciate, right? The adjustments that are going to happen from day to day.
Yeah, I mean, breathing room doesn't come easy, and for a lot of these teams, it's all about defending your respect for a drop. Mixon and Blaha, certainly a duo that struggled all throughout the course of yesterday, but here at the start, they seem like they might actually have the advantage over Antonio. They're trying to solidify this exchange. Z-Link already down and out for the count, but at this point, Mixon, Blaha, they're still taking their time. They know just how crucial each and every point they secure today is going to matter for their position on the leaderboard.
And if all teams, you know, this is the one that needs it the most after such a, you know, ridiculously slow start for them, they have a lot of ground to make up for. Now, do keep in mind, today's points are off of, or based off of a 1.5x multiplier. So any team, and we mean it, any team can absolutely rocket their way up into definitely a global championship spot, but more importantly, into that money, right? And we're talking big money if you can get up toward that top 10. So for Mixon and Blaha, this is a fantastic start, kicking things off with 2 eliminations now. It's just worth so much more as opposed to yesterday.
I don't think that they could have crawled any deeper into this cavern, but they've got to be wary. It seems like they might still have another duo on top, and they're not the only ones getting some early game action. Chaos just caught out of position there by Dynamic, and Dynamic making sure to get the job done. Also finds that clean elimination onto Chance, so 12 points, 6 a pop here, and it just continues. Seek and Dash also confirming an elimination onto Kanata. Nitro Drum action like this is not something that you would have been expecting.
Yeah, this is definitely different for Dash and Seek, already seeming like their surprise attack strategy onto Kanata and Cooper is paying off here, giving them the leg up. Cooper now will have to figure out how to play not only for this pickup for the reboot card, but more importantly to actually get that pickup, given that it seems like the zone is going to be sitting somewhere around the southern part. But jumping in with Source and Poppy here. Again, Static seems like we've gotten somewhat of an even match, but Poppy's going to come through, find the full eliminations onto the 2 up top, as Source was sent running for a moment there, and they are right back into this game.
It's surprising to see Source and Poppy that far north, even challenging Statics and Pluto at Piney Lane, but again, it just goes to showcase the kind of shifts that all of these teams are essentially looking for. Teams know that with that 1.5 times point multiplier, you know, the elimination scorings can matter, and they can make all the difference as far as where your overall standing on the leaderboard would be concerned. But getting a little bit more over eye view on some of the action building up around the underworld. Batman, Booga, and Rapid, they are certainly a team that had a decent amount of success in day 1, and what they're hoping to do today is just continue to build upon some of that early success that they found throughout the course of yesterday, because there were definitely a couple of pickups that they would have liked to avoid, but that could be said for everyone.
Yeah, like my reference point is that is the foundation. It's the way that you set yourself up for success, given that this is, of course, the 2-day format. How you start your tournament is the most critical to your success here, as far as, of course, your overall ending will beat Batman Boogan Rapid, being up in that 200+ point threshold mark, inside that top 10 coming into day 2, you are literally set up for success. All you have to do is stay even just mediocre, right? Mediocrely consistent, and you'll be heading your way to the grand finals given such a strong start to their day. But this is definitely the team we'll continue to keep an eye out on for now. We just get to see what they're working with, see that they're uncontested, and move on to some other fights going on here. Quanti and Japco, another team that definitely surprised us, right? Their first few games, pretty explosive. They found some where they kind of dropped off a bit, but overall still relatively great performance day 1.
I think the most impressive part about Quanti and Yapko so far has just been the fact that they had to duke it out essentially to be able to establish their drop uncontested for the most part. It was just Blaha and Mixon that were consistently challenging them originally in our previous weeks, but all of yesterday we saw Quanti, Yapko able to kind of just focus on doing their own thing, and we also saw them rather consistently making it to those end game performances that, you know, this is clearly what they were chasing after the entire time. I mean, you're having to fend off an entirely separate duo from the drop that you want in the first place, and here, Quanti and Yapko, they're just trying to be a problem at Mount Olympus. They really like to control this elevated territory surrounding this top statue, and for good reason. It gives them great overview of the lobby.
Take a look at this. Pink and Miro starting off on the wrong foot here. Pink just ran down by Skittles and Chubbs. And that's the thing, Skittles and Chubbs, such a strong team. It's not going to be an easy early game fight for them this entire day if they can't formulate a new tactic. Otherwise, they'll be going against some of the best here. But for Dash and Seek, they're continuing to what seems to be sit on Kanata's reboot card potentially here, and Cooper forced to try to figure out how to break this defense, but the offense from Seek and Dash is just too good, it seems like. And he's having a hard time right now.
And what hurts even more still is knowing that Kanata and Cooper ending off yesterday in that 6th place position on the leaderboard. They would like to get a strong start towards the day because they know just how much everyone else in this lobby is looking to play catch up with them essentially. But I like this from Cooper. He is not giving up by any means. He knows all he needs to do is acquire Kanata's reboot card, but it is starting to approach that threshold though, MDF, where even if he is successful in this endeavor, even if he gets that reboot card, he's had to delay his surge strategy so much so that I'm not sure it would really lead them in all that great of a mid to late game faring position anyways, just because of how much delay Seek and Dash are posing here.
Yeah, and Cooper, of course, deciding to stick around here is telling us that clearly he feels like he is the more confident duo in the 2, but even with a toe-to-toe versus Dash, it doesn't matter. He knew there was pressure on his heels. Seek and Dash will end up taking down Kanata and Cooper in an upsetting early elimination. And again, you come in at 6th place here in a 2-day grand finals, and you have a chance at winning this tournament. You truly, truly do. But that right there is as good as a major setback. So that's going to kind of put them in a middling position. Still not over, though, of course. They'll have chances to climb up. Jumping back into Clix and Vino, though. Look at the damage that has been done to this duo here.
They've had a moment, though, to try and recuperate things, and at the ship it station, keep in mind, this is Baka and Parz's typical, you know, starting point, so it's really just scraps that they're after. Clix managing to find a med kit that's going to put them just slightly back to, you know, a fighting point of view, but at the same time, TK, Turtle Tavern, they're kind of just situated on that flaming boost tube right outside that ship it station, and they are going to be such a problem for Veno and Clix if they're not careful. If Veno wasn't already so injured, it wouldn't necessarily be as much of a threat. They could just choose to ignore that, but that's a situation where TK and Turtle, they could look to force it if they wanted to, and Quanti and Yapko, they seem like they found the aggression that they were after in the first place. Flo trying to do what he can to buy some time, but Quanti just drops directly on top of Flo. Easy elimination after the fact, and Sigma, believe he was already knocked earlier on. So yeah, just another really clean couple of elims for Quanti and Yapko there.
Take a look at this. Clix and Vino caught in what seems to be a very tight situation. We saw that they were sort of forced again into early heals here, missing a lot of white HP, but I saw that they knocked a down body. I think Pars might have been caught off guard here. And due to that, yeah, take a look at this. Due to that, they actually secure the loot, and this is a critical moment. They don't get the points here, but they get all of that material, those heals, and that'll kind of put them back into a fighting shape here for the first game. But Yamzo and Tayson, much different story here. They seem to be very much set up for success right now. Just behind, trailing behind a little bit on wood, but that's nothing. We can, of course, bounce back from that. Flaming Hoop's going to send them flying. Couple tags there for Yamzo. Well played. Look at this, unlooted here. This is all a part of this strategy, if you will.
Yamzo and Tayson, I think, definitely a team where there was a lot of kind of concern after the Slurp Cacti regeneration factor was essentially neutralized since it was removed. Tayson and Yamzo, they've had to kind of formulate a new plan entirely, and the level of adaptability that I think all of these pros have kind of showcased, especially the ones that were more directly impacted in that southern section of the map over in the desert territory, that were kind of just looking for those surge-based strategies on top of the Slurp Cacti. You could be more aggressive with your peaks, but now it's a lot more fixated upon being able to just take these box fights relatively early, or at the very least, you get your surge tags, but you don't receive too many in exchange. And that's always the hardest part, is trying to go unseen while you're actually trying to establish damage from a range.
And Pen and Pump here, still in the storm. Have a long ways to go here, because they have to rotate past the Grim Gate. Just looking at the map right now, trying to gather some information. It seems like they might just be the last team to get into the safe zone. 39 duos remaining in this game, by the way. Very much action heavy in this early game already.
That's for sure. And you can also see Duo still lurking at Lavish Lair. Wonder if that might be Muzz and Epic Whale, but the fact that teams feel comfortable enough to stay inside of the storm during these early ticks, you know, it just showcases the fact they feel much more comfortable, possibly looking to opt for more of a dead side rotate. Mongrel and Mr. Savage, though, this is a duo that needs to come out with a massive performance here on the day. They really just had a rough time throughout the entirety of yesterday's 6 lobbies, and I know for a lot of people there was so much hype kind of riding on this team, and I think that there is still plenty that could come back out full force here, because I think for Mongrel and Mr. Savage, getting the opportunity to kind of replay things that, you know, didn't necessarily go right for them yesterday, hopefully they've been able to kind of develop some form of a new surge strategy, because it hurts when you got to make those changes overnight, right? But I think that they're both certainly a caliber of player that can achieve those metrics.
I agree with you. I think they are absolutely worthy of a slot, but it will come down to them ultimately, you know, making those adjustments and seeing if they can make up for what went wrong yesterday. You saw that Mongrel and Savage didn't really change their strategy post adjustments to the game, post, you know, new update, basically. They kind of stuck to the same strat. Kelly and Vivid broke it down perfectly. They are still playing the same kind of cactus areas, which means that there are just less teams down there, right? It's not as effective as it once previously was. So we'll see what happens today. I mean, already the fact that they're making it this far into what is now going to be the bend of the mid game is better, given that yesterday they had so many early exits.
Yeah, and to be fair to that as well, I do think there is value in just committing to what you have been practicing, especially knowing that you have a 2-day format, right? If this was like a only 6 lobbies to work with circumstance, then Okay, guys, we might want to do something a little bit different here when it's not working out for the first 2 games, but they knew coming into today that they would have that 1.5 times point multiplier to work with, and so I do think that that gave them a little bit more leeway, but Cold sneaking up onto Poyo doesn't get the tag that he was hoping for, though, and has now revealed his position, so Peterbot immediately going to rotate over, provide some overhead support there for Poyo. But remember, this is our duo with that Machinist Medallion. It is so much harder to kind of commit to these stretched out box fights because they'll just have an easier time regenerating their shield and not having to use as many of their resources.
It's almost uncharacteristic of Cold to actually miss that ambush like that. I think he put the floor down somehow on mistake, by the way. But is what it is. Here's a quick update. If you guys didn't see that leaderboard fly in, 3rd place is down. So seeing that Peterbot and Poyo are in this game right now, Clix and Vino still standing, Bugha and Aviv right now. These are your teams that have a chance to, of course, jump up, overtake 3rd, and more importantly, solidify somewhat of a strong lead here. Yamto and Tateson, given that they're only, you know, performance earned yesterday got them 160 points. It's really not that much, but doesn't put them all the way out of the conversation just yet.
The problem now, though, is that they find themselves underneath that surge damage threshold, so they're forced to try and key as a third-party opportunity. But Alex, Worthy, they're taken out before they even get a chance to apply some pressure there. Now Iyamzo, Tayson, both coming under the effects, but Iyamzo from behind catches Dash completely off guard here. Dash just managing to scramble, but it did put Iyamzo over. Unfortunately, he gets knocked in the process. Tayson now trying to barrel through, but there are just too many teams collected. And Dash, ultimately, the true benefiter, at least for the time being. Pink and Miro could definitely play heavy disturbance here.
I'm surprised Pink and Miro is still standing. Remember, we saw that one of them was knocked earlier. I thought they were fully eliminated, but no, look. As you can see, this is going to be a big turn of events right now for Miro and Pink there. 3 eliminations now for Miro as he is dialed in and gets to pick up all of that free material right there. Very well earned for them. Puts them in a strong position now to start marching through this mid-game here. And what a perfect rotation. Not a single team to hold them out here. They get to cut all the way across, free of any enemy line sights. Meanwhile, Mr. Mongrel and Mr. Savage here on the move. Whoa! Finds read on the rotate, and that's a quick highlight coming out of the Reckless Railways. Just showing
Crash
you
pads.
how quickly, you know, things can change for you.
Just so problematic, Reed just unsuspecting, and I can't fault him for it either. It's a crash pad. Unfortunately for Veno, that's a crash pad in the wrong direction. Did not mean to clip it that way, and immediately forced to expend the one med kit he was holding on to. Granted, he was probably going to utilize it either way, but Nerfface now going to have an opportunity. Clix was isolated. Veno, even though he's managed to get back some of his white HP, does confirm that elimination onto Sid as well, but it's a matter of fact that the damage is done. It's 7th zone. He can't go for a reboot play at this point. He's just gonna have to scrap it out as a solo, and he knows just how valuable every single one of these placements points is. Teams on the height at Mount Olympus taking note of his position as a solo as well. They're trying to apply a little bit of pressure here. Fortunately, Trashy Threats gonna get caught up there with Paco and Vorteca, so that will buy Veno some time to sort of recuperate his shield as well. It is just such a tragic second, essentially, that Veno splits apart from Clix, and that's really all it took for Disaster to strike.
Well, he's still closing in right now, right? Like, literally closing in on placement points. He picked up a couple eliminations, so this is not like a full net negative game by any means, if he can just earn some placement points. But I think it was very wise of him to actually finish that elimination. He had to. And the fact that he gets a little more material, we can definitely see Vino pull something off here. Let's not forget they have the advantageous, you know, weather station typically, right? As far as their strategy is concerned.
Yeah, but a forecast tower that's likely to be heavily trafficked as well at the start of the match. Didn't get a chance to really gauge just how much intervention they had on their initial rotational path, but Veno, keep in mind, Vorteca and Paco, they know he's still lingering there as a solo. They want to try, see if they can get some shots onto him, but Veno, he's just going to take the direct fight there with Sandman. But again, focused by the entirety of the lobby. This is looking grim right now, MDF. It is Veno after all. If anybody can make something out of nothing, it'll be Veno, and he does it! Delivery onto Sandman, the perfect timing for an elimination. All he needs now is a chance to pick up some of that body loot, whatever there might be. One more small shield potion, but his time has been cut short. Just too many factors working against him.
And the surge, I couldn't even believe that he didn't have enough damage. But he somehow fought through that, and you know what? He's still, you gotta give credit, right? Still picked up a placement point, still got that extra elimination onto Sandman, but that lobby focus was just, it was just next level. And even Mongrel, I'm noticing even Mongrel is a solo right now.
I think for many of our teams, it can be really difficult to try and work through some of these shifting layers, and a lot of our top teams even just encountering issues with the surge in general. Bugha, Aviv, they're also gonna fall victim. 16 below currently. Bugha scrambling, trying to see if he can apply a shot anywhere, but he's just having to break through walls. He's trying to see if he can find an isolated player, but at this point, he's basically toast. He's just gonna fall right outside the box of Mixon and Blaha. A little bit of materials that they can add, and this is who I had on my mind the moment that I saw Clix and Veno go down. Peterbot and Pollo, though, shaping up to be in a very prime position to try and bring home Lobby 7 as a victory royale.
The next couple of moments are going to be super telling for Peterbot and Pollo here. If they make their way into what will effectively be closer to like a top 5, top 10, they'll have such a monstrous lead. This is where things really start to separate, but look at Mongrel, 97 below, has to fight here. He is doing his best to put up a defense, but it's just not going to be enough. Tough task, right? Storm Surge, edge of zone, so low. Very tough spot to be in. Paper with the pickup onto Victor V. By the way, barely picked him up. Victor V was extremely weak in there. And if I had to say, it was definitely a lot of luck and circumstance just lining up for them, given that Paper has no eliminations, by the way, so he obviously didn't have to drop anyone to save Victor V there. Things just kind of worked out for him.
Yeah, but it seems their luck may have just run out. 55 below that damage threshold. And again, we're seeing Peterbot just continue to prosper in this lobby. That mythic hand cannon caught the tail end of that elimination, but Peterbot, Pollo doing an excellent job of just staying ahead of the zone. Now looking back, it's Pink and Miro. They've caught wind of, but they gotta be careful. Their own walls now exposed. Raze and Curly trying to see if they can swoop in onto a massive come up here, but it's the team on height that Peterbot and Pollo are bound to start taking notice of soon enough. They can tell all these players crash padding around them. They want to get involved. They've got to make sure that they stay on a comfortable layer before they go for that ultimate height challenge. Peterbot doesn't have any more crash pads, so unless Pollo's carrying all of them, it might be difficult for them to actually work their way towards the high ground, but Peterbot's found a knock onto Agers. He might have just had his loot snatched up, though, by a separate duo.
And Paper just found a full refresh as well in the low ground. And this is, again, they're not doing it flashily, right? They don't have a lot of eliminations down here in this low ground, but they do have these very, crucial pickups here. Mats being found for them is going to keep them alive. This elevation change is just incredible right now, and it's going to continue to drop players down. Finally now, Muzz and Epic Whale, one of the few teams to jump all the way to low ground. Peterbot and Pollo decide to say, screw the high ground, I'm going down as well. And they are trying to avoid players here. Into the top 10 we go. Miro and Pink are at 8 eliminations. This has just continued to connect well for them. Meanwhile, Paper and Victor V want this high ground. They find Dukez and Sphinx there. The double crash pad to really try to fight for it. And what are the odds that there's one ready for him right there? Oh, it works against them. and Paper scrambling, falls to the zone there. Dukez manages to regain high ground here, regain position. He's the first to get up and over the mountain now as they start to continue their pressure, but he's completely out of material. He will have to likely fight here.
Made it to the tree line, though, just in the nick of time. Might be able to squeeze out at least a handful of builds. That might be all the difference here as Peterbot from behind, catching players when they least suspect it. But Pollo, he's going to find his run cut short. Peterbot and Pollo, have they done enough, though? Sphinx and Dukez looking to convert this into a victory royale, and success will happen here in lobby number 7. Dukez and Sphinx could not have picked a more perfect time to kind of stamp their first VR here at MDF, because everybody knows just how crucial 100 points can be on day 2.
Yeah, and again, you got to give credit to the fact that Peterbot and Pollo withstood the pressure of the other first and second place teams, right? Pars and Baka, Clix and Vena, who fell earlier in the match, is going to give them way more runway. And let's not forget, Bugha and Aviv were in the conversation as well. They fell early too. This is giving Sphinx and Dukez time to actually make room on the standings, as is Epic Whale and Muzz, who had a very, very good endgame. But look at Sphinx and Dukez' closeout performance here. Very well played for them. Congrats on the victory royale for game number 7 here on the North American region. That is a huge, huge turn of events for them. That's surely going to jump them up at least into the top 5 there, Taco.
Yeah, and I mean, they're not the only team that's looking to kind of open the doorway to see what all they can pick up as far as leaderboard placement spots are concerned. But we'll have more of a breakdown as far as Game 7 went, and more action still to come right after the short break.